I think ultimately because the blockchain technology is such low cost, is such efficient and fast, I think it makes sense, right? Especially for those business who already have an internet presence, which is a majority of the business these days, to have interaction with at least the technology or certain tokenized assets. Either they can also tokenize their own equity, they can tokenize their loyalty, their cash flows, their IP, or use blockchain technology in their supply chain, right? I think this is key for all the business going forward.
Today, I have Animoca Brands Investment and Partnership Director, David. Welcome to Dealflow Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
Cool. Let's rip straight into it. And I went through the Animoca Brands Twitter page, and it is very clear that the message is tokenization or die. It is that simple that you are messaging out to all business owners and telling them right now they need to tokenize their company. So if we think back into the 1990s, if they weren't on the internet in the dot-com boom, they were irrelevant. Moving forward into the 2000s, if they weren't discoverable by Google, they were irrelevant. And then in the 2010s, if they weren't on social media, they were irrelevant. And the message is right now, moving into the 2020s and 2030s, Animoca Brands is warning, if your company is not tokenized, you will become irrelevant. So my big question to open this off, David, is what does it mean for a company to become tokenized?
Yeah, that's a great question indeed. I think as us Web3 practitioners in the space, I think we are strong believer of the blockchain technology. And as you mentioned, I think at the beginning of the internet era, right? I think no one believe this is going to change the world forever, right? And it is actually still changing how we do business every day, with Web 1 and the Web 2, and of course now the Web 3 and beyond, right? So when you refer to how tokenization, if you don't tokenize, then you die, right? What I will interpret it as not every business have to tokenize their equity, right? We don't actually mean that, but ultimately, every business would have to interact with a token, right, or tokenized assets, because it's like when your business don't have a website or representation online, right? Then eventually, you will be outdated and you will be left behind, right? So I think ultimately, because the blockchain technology is such low cost, is such efficient, and fast. I think it makes sense, right? Especially for those business who already have an internet presence, which is a majority of the business these days. To have interaction with at least the technology or certain tokenized assets. Either they can also tokenize their own equity. They can tokenize their loyalty, their cash flows, their IP, or use blockchain technology in their supply chain, right? I think this is the key for all the business going forward.
So if you want to break that down a little bit more, say if I am a person who runs a trade shop, I might be a builder or a plumber or have a local coffee shop in my town. What would it actually mean to tokenize my company and how would that benefit my customers?
Yeah, you are talking about a very interesting application, right? If my business is not currently dealing so much with the internet, right, already, then why do we need tokenized asset on chain, right? I think you can think about it as an added value, right, to your customers or your users, right? For example, if you run a small cafe in a local town, right? You may not have a very strong internet presence, but what if you have this loyalty card on chain, right? That you can issue these coupons to your customers, then, every now and then during holidays or specific birthdays, you can airdrop kind of NFT coupons to them so that they can, spend this, discounts, coupons at your shop, right? And then you can also interact with a lot of the local business through the blockchain automatically, right? So this is just, some, ideas that I can come up with on top of my head. But, of course, there's a very creative and, not all the shops can adopt. But, I think this is some of the ways that, we can further add value to your customers and then, have advantage over some of your competitors. Yeah.
It makes sense. You're able to have a more of a personal relationship with your customers, right? Rather than sending them a coupon in the mailbox, it's directly there on their phone. So they're more likely to have it and be able to use it and spend it and perhaps even maybe trade it on a marketplace later on or accrue points. And it's just more long term, right? It's not just a coupon that will get lost in the bottom of the handbag. So definitely can see that some retail experience is why companies would want to come on chain. So how easy would it be for a small company or somebody who's not crypto native to bring their company into the tokenized world?
Yeah, I think, again, if you are a small company and you want to start, you know, uh, venturing into the Web3 space and, start stepping into the tokenized world, I think the easiest thing is really to, start looking at, user loyalty, to start looking at your user data, right? I think especially with, AI developing so rapidly and, integrating into our life already so quickly, I think it, makes even more sense, right, to adopt, Web3 and tokenized assets, right, with your AI and your AI agents, right? Because, maybe we'll also dive into this more later. In this episode, I think the key for AI and AI agents to adopt Web3 technology is because they, in the future, currently they cannot operate your wallet for you, right? At least in a very easy or trackable manner. But with blockchain technology and a Web3 wallet, you can see all the transactions they made and even like microtransactions and also all the thought process can be, traceable and viewable on chain. So I think this is going to be very useful for, all sorts of, business, right? So, if your business is already thinking about adopting I think it makes sense to also think about, adopting, tokenized asset at the same time, right? Because I think the both would come hand in hand.
Absolutely. I am a keen believer that blockchain technology is perfect for agentic use. It allows global payments, instant settlement, and frictionless transactions, right? And autonomous transactions. So we'll definitely dive into those subjects a little bit further. But I want to just introduce yourself a little bit more. So, for example, you and I were at a dinner party. How would you explain what you do and what Animoca Brands is to somebody who is a non-crypto native person?
Yes, this is an interesting question, because what we do has been, evolving, like the Web3 market as well. For a starter, right? If as a dinner party for someone who don't understand Web3 at all, I would say I invest in and help build the next generation of internet, right? Where users are actual owners instead of just the products, right? Because I think the essence of Web3 world is you know, the main difference is we give back value to the users, right?
Mhm.
In Web3, rather than just extracting content and value from Web2, right? A lot of this data in the past has been hosted and captured by these Web2, mega tech companies, right? And, while they seems to be paying, sharing a bit of the profit with the content generators, with the KOLs and so on, a majority of the value is still in these hands, right?
Mhm.
And the data as well, right? In these hands of these mega tech giants. I think Web3 is really there to disrupt this business model, and the generator of this content, the owner of this data actually should be given back, the ownership and the value that's generated using the data themselves, right? So I think this is the essence of our company, and I think for the Web3 space in general, and for Animoca ourselves, we have been evolving through the space. We have started with not a lot of consumer apps, NFTs, metaverse, gaming. But throughout the last few years, we have also reinvented ourselves, right? Now, actually recently we released a new kind of vision where, we, target to reimagine future economies, and we position ourselves to build, invest, and accelerate the most impactful technologies and ecosystems, right? And turn participants into stakeholders. Break it down quickly, to build is, we have incubated a lot of projects, including some of our top, projects like Mochaverse, like Open Campus, and of course, we are involved in the stablecoin space locally in Hong Kong as well. And we provide this kind of infrastructure where, all the other partners and users can leverage, right, and create value for not just a portfolio, but for the whole Web3 and wider economy in general, right? And then we invest throughout the years, right? We have accumulated over 600 portfolio companies and strategic assets, and this has become a massive, network, right, that can offer a lot of value to stakeholders as well. And finally, we accelerate as well through, with our partner, for offering digital asset services, through offering, tokenization strategy, research, go to market, advice and all that, to provide to the Web3 world. Yeah. So this is more kind of a more elaborate way to explain our current business model. To simply put, right, or wrap up, I would say we are a bit like SoftBank, right? Web3 version of a SoftBank, where we invest a lot in the early stage companies, but as we build up the portfolio company, there's been increasing value, right? That we can see from the different portfolio companies together, right? And some of these portfolio companies, they will grow themselves to be a very big companies themselves as well, and then we will basically help and nurture them along the way as well.
You guys have got so much on your hands there. Like, you kind of built out a whole entire ecosystem where you don't only invest into companies, you hold their hands, you provide partnerships, you connect the dots, you offer them so much more than writing a check and walking away. And that's what I wanted to dive into a little bit further. So you've started off Animoca with licensing IP brands from, say, Disney and WWE and Adidas, really big brands, right? And you took these IPs and turned them into mobile games. And then it sort of transitioned from that into sort of metaverse and creating these digital worlds. And then understandably that you need to have IDs and personal ownership and asset ownership within these worlds. So I want to know, like, you guys have been working with likes of Snoop Dogg and really big famous artists, really big brands. How are these big brands now looking at tokenization of their IP? Because I think that maybe 4 years ago, we saw like Starbucks come online, we saw all these big names come online, but it sort of washed away. Are these companies still interested in tokenizing their brands, or like what's the vibe with it at the moment with these guys that you have been working with these partnerships?
Yeah, I think talking about IPs, indeed our founder and chairman Yatsu, it's the expert and very experienced person, right, in the space. So yet in the beginning he has been in through the Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3 era, right, already. So he's been through a lot of these cycles himself, and when he founded Animoca back in about 2014, he started bringing a lot of the IPs into gaming, right? Because, he sees that games are, one of the most used application, right? And, he foresees that, it will only become, even more, adopted, right? And, we have seen the rise of, so many gaming giants, such many big titles games, and a lot of the different genres of games that we have integrated into our lives. So I think that is kind of his vision getting fulfilled as well. And then in about 2016 2017, we really pivoted full on into Web3, right? Because he sees that this is the future, right, of the internet in the next phase, right? And our kind of expertise and network is really also in the IP space. So we started, bringing on a lot of the bigger IPs as well onto the Web3 space. We are also incubating and invested in a lot of the first early stage NFTs and brands, like Crypto Kittens, like the Cool Cats, like, Bored Apes, Sandbox, things like that. So, that has really created, the metaverse genre, right, back in the last cycle. So, I think this is definitely still, our vision. We see that, a lot of the big brands, they, see, what the IP value can bring, right, on chain through the metaverse and NFT stage. Although, a lot of the hype at that cycle, right, have slowed down. But I think, what we see is that a lot of the big brands, they are still actively looking to adopt the technology, maybe not only through an NFT, right? Because NFT is maybe just the very superficial level of blockchain adoption. It at that time we didn't have too many value accrual into those NFTs, rather than just digital collectible, maybe some kind of very simple kind of interaction with the brand. But I think a lot of the brands, they are looking at much deeper tokenization methods, right, or procedures on maybe some for example IPs, they are looking at even tokenizing the asset completely on chain. It's just not just a copy of the offline version, right? We have seen, the trading cards, right? Like, the Pokemons, and the different trading cards brands. I think they are, also actively looking at that, and I think we are also, seeing that happening, right? So there's a recent phase, which we call real world asset, right? Real world asset, in a way, is essentially a tokenized version, right, of the asset in the real world. But it is, but if you just tokenize the asset, right, in copying the asset replicate on chain, it's doesn't really have that much of a use, right? If you don't grant a further kind of usage to the Alipay token itself, right? So I think a lot of the bigger brands or the institutions, they are more looking at really having a native on-chain version, right, of some of these assets. So once you mint the Alipay token, it will only exist on chain. They don't even have like a copy, right, of the physical version, right, in the real world, right, on a piece of paper or something like that. So I think this is really the next stage of tokenization that we are seeing that's starting to happen as well.
We've seen tokenization happen rapidly and sometimes very tragically over our time in venture capital and investing into companies. So, the vibe that I'm getting from some VCs at the moment is that tokens are dead. Not every company should issue a token because we've seen many people who are crypto native is that a trend that is very common is when a company launches a token, the value shoots up through the roof and then drops down to below the floor. And what would you be saying to this when you're encouraging real world assets or companies to come on chain and to provide tokens? How would they prevent or like hold value and create utility in their tokens?
Yeah, I think that is a really great question as well. I think a lot of the projects, right, when they think about, whether they need a token or not, I think one of the key questions they should ask really is, do they really need the token, or, would they work without a token, right? Because, if it is just a Web2 product, that can live without a token, they can just issue equity to raise as well, right? They don't even need to have, the token to, raise money, right? So I think, when we think about, we're talking about like a more governance or the project token right here, right? But if your business is dealing with tokenized asset, it will be, applied more universally. So I think that's another thing. But, you know, if your project, right, really deals with many independent, customers or actors, or there's shared infrastructure, or there is needs to be a reward, right, at the network level, then you can really look at issuing the token rather than just the equity, right, which lacks the interaction elements, right. So you can ask whether the token grants you a real right, whether it's access or governance or reputation, or is it just, points, right? Points that you gain by farming, on chain, right? And then, do you have a clean kind of source of value flow into the system, right? That will actually give value to this token, right? So I think this is also a very important question to ask. And then, is that demand for the token, right? Or sometimes we call it sinks, right, for the token. Because, tokens, they could have a fixed supply, they could have inflation, but, is there a natural demand or sinks that can be spent, we can spend or lock this token, rather than, just through trading or speculation. And then, finally, right, if you look at it by removing the token, and you don't have token and you only have the equity, would that break your business model, right? I think that is also key question that you can ask when you decide whether your project needs a token or not. Yeah.
You mentioned something that I want to circle back into that one is reputation. And when we started out the conversation, we kind of touched on the topic of that we're going to be moving into a very agentic world, and agents are going to be the primary actor for building economies online. And I know that Animoca have really focused into building this thing called Mochaverse. And this is allowing people, humans, and also agents to earn reputation for good acting or for, I don't know, other actions that they're doing on chain. Are you able to like tell me a little bit more? Why is Animoca so keen on this new reputation and economy on in the globe, and how is that different from the attention economy? Because I mean, Animoca has 600 companies, and everyone must be fighting for attention, and it's what we've been sort of been focusing on. And now it's saying, okay, attention can be coming from bots, it can be faked, it can be, just inflating views, whereas reputation is saying like that these views are coming from, say, a Nobel Peace Prize winner or somebody who has really contributed value. So that person and has actually got a higher reputation, so they're adding more value compared to a bot. So it's how is this going to look like moving forward, and how is Mochaverse, I guess, becoming the leader of the reputation economy?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question that I want to talk about as well. You know, in the Web2 space, right, I think, attention is everything. You see all these KOLs, content creators, they have been making content through the last 10 years and, they have been very successful. They get a lot of profit share and, and essentially become very famous, right? But, as you highlight, we are entering a stage where AI start to be, generating very high quality content as well, right? Not just in words, but also pictures, also videos, also all sorts of different media, right? And, we start to see in our social media feeds that, this AI generated content is harder and harder to be distinguished from real user generated content, right? So, in the past, right, a lot of these attention, can work and monetize and optimize for clicks and watch time, because they are naturally, representing the reputation and the trust in the content creator himself, right? Although, there were still fake accounts at that time, but it was much easier to prevent and distinguish. But with AI, right, this is much, much harder to distinguish right now, right? So, it's about the trust of distinguishing between, real humans and, AI agents. Because of course, AI agency is very efficient. It will help us in a lot of things, but ultimately, it is not a real person, right? So it should not have been treated as the same. So having the real on-chain identity and reputation really makes sense in the AI world, because as a human, you have built up all this credit, this loyalty, this reputation throughout, your life, right? And if you cannot have a mean to represent it and keep it, in a great place and leverage it, then it would be buried in the sea of information that is generated by AI these days. Yeah. So I think Mocha Network is really trying to solve this problem, by having user reputation and the real user on-chain identity stored on the Mocha layer itself. We have got various kind of verification and different methods in place that can help to verify on-chain identity and reputation and restore it transparently and it cannot be changed on chain, right, like all of the other blockchains. So this has become a potential way that the real user identity and reputation can be leveraged and used in different areas, right, of the internet in the future. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is particularly relevant in the AI world.
Absolutely. And so when we're thinking about the agentic world moving forward, these agents are going to be transacting and maybe making business deals on our behalf. So having a good reputation score or a good acting agent is going to be very important. So how is a good acting agent going to be separated from a good acting human? And how do we trust the agents? Because at the moment, it's very, OpenClaw has just come out, and there's a massive thing where agents are taking over people's computers and credit cards and going AWOL. So, how can we actually trust that agents are doing productive work that we allow them or want them to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been playing with my opening code these days as well, and it's been totally new experience, right? It's seeing the open code, they talk to each other in their in their own forum, doing different things, having their own religion, and everything like that is really fascinating. And actually, one of my favorite movie is Terminator, right? Terminator, and it's if we're starting to visualize, this you see the Terminator in a moment coming, right? One day, they will come up with the Skynet, and then we'll get destroyed and everything. It's funny, but yeah, I think we are starting to see that happening, right? So I see a lot of users online. They allow their open code direct access to their credit cards, to their wallets, and that's definitely big mistakes, right? So because the AI, even in such an advanced model, right, they will make mistakes. They don't tell you all the steps that they done, right, to achieve the goal, right, and somehow they hallucinate as well. If you don't set up the guardrails for them, they will go out of bound. They might do some gray area stuff. So I think it's even more important to have these agents bound by a certain infrastructure, right, or platform. So I see, the blockchain is a very extremely, useful technology for that, for the AI agents to operate on, because if the agents, right, you give them, their own wallet, and and if you record all the transactions on chain, that is traceable, that you can review it anytime, and especially for key, spendings, right, even for micro spendings, it can be trackable in its own wallet. Then it will allow the users to have much more control, right? And it's much easier to explain and audit, right? To the agent's action, right? It will also allow much more granular constraints and audit trails that can be reviewed by humans and institutions, right? So I think this is exactly the thing we need. Also, we talked about a mock network, right, that have reputation on chain for humans. We can actually make something similar for agents as well, right? So, agents, they are like, human in a way, in a robotic format. So, they can also have their own reputation system, right? So, when they represent their human to do certain things, they can also accumulate scores and reputation scores, and this can also again be, viewable and stored in a blockchain itself, and then they can be allowed more freedom to participate in different methods like areas like DeFi and so on.
Yeah, agents are really flipping the narratives at the moment, and it's been really interesting and fascinating to watch the agents, create their own communities, create their own jobs, and create their own economies. So, it seems like Animoca is able to right in the moment for being able to front run this agentic economy online. Just like 4 years ago, you guys were at the very front um, of the birth of the metaverse and sandbox and bringing all of those games on chain. So I'm very bullish on what you guys are doing, and especially because you've got 600 or over 600 investment companies there, and they're across so many different verticals. So it must be really interesting you working with all of these different companies across gaming, infrastructure, security, privacy, you name it, you've probably touched it. So you have a very wide spectrum of what's going on. Where would you say is the most underpriced attention or bet to be building in at the moment? Like, where would you say founders should be focusing on?
Yeah, I think this is a very great question as well. I think right now, indeed, to be repeating myself, I do see there's a really big convergence of traditional finance and blockchain technology right now, right?
Mm.
Because this past 3 to 4 years, we have seen real mass adoption, right, or real institutional adoption of the blockchain technology. We have seen, Bitcoin ETFs. We have seen, the real rise of stablecoin. We have seen, institutions going into crypto. So, coming from the track fiber of myself, I'm seeing a lot of my friends and previous colleagues and partners. They are really doing much deeper, real, thinking on how to adopt this technology in the institution, right? Not just by investing or trading, but actually incorporating their technology, right, into their business model as well. So I think this is a real potential, right? And how do we achieve this is definitely through, tokenization and, real world assets, right? So, Animoca ourselves, we also have, announced a few partnerships that we are, you know, going to partner with different traditional financial institutions to help with distributions of different, you know, uh, uh, products, in regulatory, compliant way as well. And we see a lot of demand from family offices and financial institutions, especially this in this part of the world. Secondly, we do see, there is, the AI, and the blockchain integration that we have talked about for a bit in this podcast as well. So I think this is indeed a very big area that is still underdeveloped. I think the AI world and the Web3 world is, really a natural match, right? And AI is growing so rapidly. And, I think the infrastructure for AI, right, on the blockchain is a real, area that have a lot of room to grow as well, right? And of course, finally, we still believe in, digital property rights and a lot of the bringing the IPs and, gaming, on chain, right? I think, this is still have a lot of potential. We are still investing and helping a lot of portfolios in this space. And, I think definitely there's still a lot of room for growth, especially with incorporating with AI and RWA, verticals that I mentioned as well.
With everybody adopting AI, do you think that we're in the AI bubble, similar to the dot-com bubble bust and boom that happened? Do you think that we are going to be seeing that moving forward in AI, or is it a little bit different this time?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to say, right? I think like a lot of the major technology adoption, I think there will be you know the the J curve, right? Which is you will see the very rapid boom in the beginning, and then there will be a large scale consolidation where I'm not calling a bubble burst, right? But it's like a rationalization of the market, and then the real technology adoption will happen, right? But for AI, actually, because it can integrate with a lot of our workflows so efficiently and rapidly, right? So quickly. I would say, the I'm not calling it bubble, right? But actually, there is still a lot of room for growth before, the rationalization can happen, right? You have seen all the, equities related to AI has really so much. We also have seen a lot of hype for the different AI related tokens in our space
Mhm.
in the past, right? So, of course, the meme related tokens already burst, right? There, but I've seen a lot of, real teams still building in the space, right? In this space. So I would say it will be their time soon, right? That they can prove their value, and then, there will be, real adoption and value accrual happening very soon.
So, talking about institutional adoption, I also saw the news that Animoca has announced a reverse merger with Current, which is going to unlock the opportunity for Animoca to essentially become on the USA Stock Exchange. Does this mean that Animoca is sort of gunning to become the S&P 500, allowing traditional investors to get access into these crypto markets, because Animoca has over 600 different projects in their portfolio. So it's a massive diversity for exposure. And now having this reverse merger, sorry, you are unlocking your ability to tap into different markets and create those financial payment rails. So I want to go a little bit deeper. Like, why did Animoca want to go through this with this reverse merger with Current? Tell us a little bit around Current. Like, what was the exchange, or what did Animoca see on that? And doing this move towards the American market, is that a bullish sign from Animoca saying, look, we see that there is, the regulatory murky waters are starting to become bit more clear, more people, more traditional investors want to get access to these crypto companies, and Animoca is positioning themselves sort of as a blanket where you can have access to 500, 600 different companies within the whole entire crypto space.
Yes. So, of course, our RTO process is still ongoing. Some details I probably cannot reveal in full, but I think in general, a lot of listed companies, why they want to go public is firstly, much better access to liquidity, and capital markets. Of course, in the Web3 space, we also have liquidity, and we can also raise capital, right? But currently the token market, including the Bitcoin size, is less than 4 trillion, right? And the equity market is more than slightly, almost 10 times, right? That size, right? So it's still a much larger market, which we can tap into. And secondly, the listing, being a listed, publicly listed companies, there is a much more brand awareness. There's much more, media exposure potential, and in that way, we can also help, portfolio companies, get more exposure as well. So I think it's many different reasons, right? And of course, once the company get listed, there's also potential to tokenize the equity as well, which is another proof that how this can be utilized, and there's a lot of ways that the tokenized equity can be used as well. So being listed is also not just pros, right? There's also some downside as well, right? Because being a listed company, it also means more regulation and more regulatory scrutiny, right? So, our team has been really working around the clock to, meet this guidance, meet this regulation, and discipline. I think all the public companies that are going through this type of process, I think it's a great process to, go through this, so that we can rethink some of our strategies as well, and we look how we should present it to the wider, equity market, and how we connect with much more larger pool of institution, potential investors and clients, right? So of course, yeah. So I think being listed, there's both, pros and cons, but I think there's a lot of potential, right, that we can leverage our, potentially, public position, right, to create more value for our portfolio and for our partners. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really interesting in the last 2 years. I've felt that the traditional worlds, the stock exchange, are now coming on chain, and it's becoming a lot more common talk amongst like Wall Street, and we're seeing like big companies going to be listed on the Nasdaq. So these two Web 2 and Web 3 worlds are kind of converging, but I feel it also goes against sort of the decentralization nature of what blockchain is all about. But I guess we'll see how it all unfolds, and it does actually unlock a whole lot new, more liquidity to come into the markets, and it's just using the blockchain technology as just like a fundamental better way to transact, to be more transparent. So I'm really excited to see where that comes. But I want to park the ideas around sort of where we're going with the institutions and everything. Let's take this conversation to focus on the founders, because massive portfolio, and you there as the director of investments and partnerships, you have probably seen thousands upon thousands of many different pitches. And pitching is really a sweet spot for early stage pre-seed people. What is your biggest advice to somebody who is a founder and they come up to you and pitch? And what's like one thing where you be like, this person here is the next Mark Zuckerberg? Like, we need to go all in on this person. Like, what would your advice be on that to founders?
Yeah, I think for founders in general, I do think, the background is, or the experience is quite important, right? I'm not saying, they have to be very successful or they have to have an all-star, very good school, good experience, big tech firms and things like that. But, I think the, track record, right, of, delivering something from start to finish and, leveraging that experience, what you learned and, in terms of the pitfalls and, of course, the good things as well, and how to, leverage this in your next project, right? I think is the most important, right? And then, how they put together like-minded people, how they put together their team, I think it's also extremely important, especially in this fast-moving market, a team that can really hustle and, don't know the market, and I think that is increasingly important as well. And then, especially in this uh, market, right? You have to find something that is really delivering value longer term. Because in the past, in the Web3 space, we have been focusing on mostly the users and the community numbers, right? But as you know, a lot of the investors they now prefer to see a much more longer term business model. You have to hit the ground running. Even if you are raising money right now, you should be starting to generate real revenue from, maybe 6 to 8 months down the line, right? With a real product that have a product market fit. So I think, having that commercial sense, of the where the value, is accruing, not only, you doesn't need to have a token, right? But, even, if you have an equity raise, I think that's also, very important point, that we look at right now. Yeah, I think, and of course, the very important thing, last thing I want to mention is, no matter in which space you are building, right? Of course, pivoting fast is a good thing, but pivoting too much and chasing the meta is also not a very good thing, right? Because, we have seen the boom and bust in the AI space, right, in the Web3 areas. Right? And a lot of the teams, they have been chasing this meta and they add some elements of AI in the project, but maybe it's not the best, right? But if you focus on certain area that you do best, for example, whether it's perps trading, whether it's a prediction market, you keep building, right? Because in the beginning, people also didn't view it as a very important or very sexy vertical, right? But they have proven through the cycle that this may be the actual area that might be surviving long term, right? And every day they're printing fees, and I think this will ultimately get you uh you know the the best path for your project. Yeah.
Don't be don't be fooled by the smoke and mirrors and chasing all these narratives, because I do see it a lot. Many projects are always pivoting. And one big red flag that I always call out founders for is when they are in this really early stage. They haven't really built anything that's revenue generating. They're still in the early stages of developing their tech. And they tell me the valuation of their company is 50 million, 100 million, 150 million. And it's like these numbers have just been plucked out of thin air. So for me, that's a really big red flag for a person who's pitching me. What's your opinion on these overinflated valuations for these very early stage companies? And is that a red flag for you, or do you have any other red flags that you would like to identify?
Yeah, I think the valuations of Web3 projects have definitely compressed a lot, right, in the last 6 to 9 months. I think it's a very healthy phenomenon. Because coming from the traditional finance world, we always look at the numbers, right, and how to value a company, either through peers comparison, either through DCF, either through other means of different income model, whatever, right? So there is a real fundamental multiple, right, that we can apply to this sorts of company. But in Web3, because the space moved so quickly, and there used to be a lot of liquidity, and many VCs chasing a certain vertical and certain projects. It really inflated a lot of the valuation of these projects, right? It is actually very difficult for traditional projects, right, to attain this type of valuations, right? You know, billions of valuations, right? In the space within, just 1 year, right? It's almost impossible, right? In the traditional space. So, actually great to see that, some of these hype normalize and rationalize. So, I think, talking about red flags, right? I think actually, um, having, talking about too big of a market, right? That or too good of a projection, right? In terms of the user numbers, in terms of revenue, I think it's actually not looking good, right, for potential investors, because right now we are not just talking about user numbers, because user numbers, maybe 24 months ago, user numbers is still the most important, because we still
Mm.
have that, liquidity here, right, in the market. But especially now with so many AI agents and bots, right, these community airdrop farming events, just which accumulate user numbers for you, transactions for you, may not be
Mm.
the most important anymore, right? So actually, real fees generation, real kind of adoption, uh, and real plan on how you can monetize these users is getting more important.
So
So,
uh,
yeah, yeah, great.
no, I was just saying that you're saying now it's more important for companies to be focusing on roadmap to revenue rather than a roadmap to users.
Yeah, yeah, I think that is really the gist of it. Yeah. So I think, just talking about users is, I think, yeah, not the right thing to do right now.
So, how does Animoca, for example, if I was a founder and I'm speaking to you and would like to get Animoca onto my cap table, how does Animoca use the whole entire network and infrastructure and connections and networking that you've got going in there to help me with my roadmap to revenue?
Yeah, so I think this is one of our strong point as well. Compared to a lot of institutions, because we have been a builder ourselves throughout the years, so we kind of know what project needs in terms of whether it is tokenomics design, whether it's go to market, whether it's other partners, connections, and potentially other investors as well. So we have all those resources available, and we can help the project to connect to their needs. And with these different verticals starting to emerge in the out of AI and IP space, I think we have very good resources, that can help each of these projects thrive, right? For example, as I mentioned, we are working on the stablecoin initiatives in Hong Kong. We have Outer Bay, platform called Luva that we are launching. Any kind of partners that need this kind of connection resources, we have, different abundance. And of course, if, you're in the, gaming IP AI space, there's a lot of, these, real users that we can bring, right, as well. Yeah, I think it's about the ecosystem and network effects.
Yeah, you guys definitely built that out. You said you've got the education side of things as well. You've got the payment rails, you've got the users, you've also got building out the stablecoin economy to be able to transact and kind of keep it into a circular economy, and everybody is contributing or adding to that part of the whole entire Animoca brand underneath the big umbrella. So if we look forward 5 years from now, I want to know from your perspective, where would you see a company being tokenized, which you wouldn't typically think could be tokenized right now?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. I think one not very obvious area is the some legal or advisory related business, right? Because right now I think this area of business has been more relationship and reputation driven, and so far these areas are still not really accrued to the blockchain or Web3 technology yet. The economies are relatively opaque and illiquid. But I think in the future, right, even some of these, IPs, these referral systems, this network can be, tokenized into incentives aligned units, right, or even tokens that could be tradable in a platform, right? I don't have very detailed, you know, uh, outline on how this works yet, but I think this is an area that I think would be interesting. Especially again with the help of AI. I think some of these advisory side of things, legal side of things can also be available, right, at a much cheaper cost to a wider range of users as well. Yeah.
When I was looking into the background of Animoca and where you guys are looking forward, and this is when I thought of the question is like, I saw that you guys were looking at tokenizing student loans, and that was the first time I've ever seen or heard of tokenizing a student loan. It seems like such a new use case and a new way to provide or build out a liquidity pool for students where it's typically gone to banks or to the university. So I thought that was like a really interesting use case for this whole entire technology moving forward. So perhaps we'll see that starting, or maybe trading student loans. I'm not too sure how that would work as well, but I thought the idea around it was really interesting. So anyway, want
Yeah.
to sort of move on a little bit from this, and I want to know just a little bit more around you, your background. It's a very probably stressful work job. I know that the crypto industry never turns off; it's always 24/7. But that's also the beauty of it. So, how do you yourself separate signal from noise, remain motivated, wanting to work across all of these different companies, and also sometimes I know I feel like I'm always just in catch up mode, so how do you remain level headed around all of this?
Yes. I think this is definitely challenges that are faced by investors in all the different VCs, especially Web3 VCs. Because we have a saying that one day in the crypto world is almost like 10 years in the normal world, right? So yeah, it's really, and the crypto markets works 24/7. So there is definitely so many information overload, right? That is
Mm.
happening in the space. So, definitely I am increasingly using different AI tools and AI agents to help me, filter out useful information, help me think,
Mhm.
and help me analyze. I think it is a really useful tool, right? I think AI really helped us a lot, right? I think we as investor in the space, in the AI space as well, I think we are really also a big adopter of the technology, right? So been trying open code, learning about new models, every day, so I think this can really help me with the analysis and and the top level view of the what's happening right now in the world, right? And I think ultimately, as an investor in the space, I think health is very important. I think after this cycle, right? I think many of the investors also kind of feel burned out a little bit, because different from last cycle. I think people have been chasing meta so quickly as well, right? We have seen one meta come up for just a few months, and then they
Mm.
die down very quickly, But in previous cycle, we would have seen at least one big theme, right, throughout the whole at least for 1 year, right? Maybe like NFT, like metaverse for and GameFi for like a whole almost whole cycle, right? But for example, for DATs, we only seen it last for maybe like 3 to 6 months. And AI memes maybe last for another 3 to 6 months as well, maybe even shorter. I think the sheer number of tokens that can be generated through the different launch pads in this cycle has really impacted the attention, right, of investors and users in this cycle, right? And I think this has been one of the major cause of why the meta shifts so quickly, right? Um, so yeah, I think using different tools to help you, I think is definitely important. Take care of your health. Uh, Schedule some downtime. Doing some sports. I think definitely is a great relaxation time.
Yes, you can get burnout very quickly in this industry, so you do need to be mindful of everything. But what is also fascinating is we are using these AI tools as fast as they're coming out. So we are able to be very efficient with our time, and also using and trying out new technologies in conjunction with the founders and the companies that we've invested into, also using these tools. So it's quite a nice, unique collaboration. And sometimes, I mean, a lot of people in the crypto world are working remotely and independently on their own projects. So having these AI tools as personal assistants or a second brain or a sounding board is a really unique um, thing that we're privileged with now. And that's what they're saying is perhaps we're going to get the one man billion unicorn company coming out of this age and era, but also keeping your focus aligned to what you're actually building and not jumping from one narrative to the next and just having a longer roadmap, a longer vision. I think that's what we need to sort of encourage founders around because, yeah, it's nice to chase the narratives or nice to pivot something slightly or whatever it is, but it means a little bit go back to the roots. Are you actually solving a true root problem that people need? Because if you're not solving a problem that people need, then yes, you're going to be pivoting and changing. But if there's a problem that's still unsolved, it doesn't matter if the latest narrative is to do with meme coins or it's a DeFi tool or whatever it might be, prediction markets or whatever's hot that time. If you're still solving a problem that is, to yourself or to other people, it doesn't matter what the news is talking about. So that's would be my sort of take on those sorts of things. But I mean, you've been working here in the Web3 space and you've transitioned out from the Web2 traditional finance space. What would be your highlight and low light from your career in Web3?
Yeah, I think I come from very stressful area of work as well in investment banking and as a hedge fund you know portfolio manager. So I think, but even coming into Web3 space, I feel I am even learning more every day, right? Because um in the traditional finance world, I think the source of information that you can obtain information from is not changing that quickly, so you can be getting some sort of information from a certain source, and that will remain, for a relatively long period of time. But I think for Web3, because of the fast moving nature and the 24/7 nature, I think there's always been new source of information from new source, right, as well. So, that's definitely very exciting thing for me because I love learning new things and adopting new technology. So I think that has both been very exciting, and also a new challenge for me as well. I think um, you know meeting a lot more exciting teams and people in the space has also been very rewarding thing for me because again for big institutions I think the counterparts where you deal with is also relatively fixed, but in the Web3 VC space I think it's always more projects, new people that you can meet and network with and learn from. So I think this has always been also very rewarding for me as well.
Yeah, the conferences in the crypto and Web3 world are crazy and they're perfect for networking. For me, I mean, I come from New Zealand, and when I started working in the Web3 world, it opened my eyes to the global economies and to so many different countries. And now I've got friends across the world building in all sorts of different levels of tech, and I can reach out with them. So even David, like we met at a few conferences and we're always talking on stages and panels together, and we've met up in Dubai and Singapore and all sorts of different places. So I think that's one of the really cool things about working in a real global economy is that even though it is 24/7 and Telegram is always pinging, but there is those longer friendships that you do feel a little bit more globally connected, and always learning, always finding out new information and the latest tech or the latest AI agent or whatever might be on the forefront of it at these conferences, and it consistently blows my mind. That's things that I think that is why I've also become so addicted to the Web3 world and wouldn't see myself working in anything else, because I can't keep up with it because I'm always talking with new people, new ideas, and discussing and collaborating, and you're always learning in this environment because everybody is pushing the boundaries on new tech and new innovation, which keeps it exciting. It's not A plus B equals C, it's the whole alphabet on the other end, and there's probably making up new alphabets with different power laws and everything on that. So that's why I definitely agree. It's one of the coolest things about working in this environment. But I want to also ask it back to you. I mean, during your journey when into the transition into Web3, has there anybody that you have looked to as a mentor or some mentorships in maybe in Animoca that you look to just for guidance? Because it can become a little bit overwhelming. I know I have mentors in my life for different things, and I reach out to them when I am perhaps feeling the burnout or I'm stuck on a problem. What's your advice around mentorship or kind of finding people that you can lean on and get support from within this industry?
Yeah, I think in the Web3 world there is many smart people that I've met over the years, and but for one person I have to go back to our chairman and founder yet, because I think it is him that really has been the spokesperson for the industry for the longest time, right? And since the earliest stage in the Web3 space, I think that he has been talking about digital property rights. He has been talking about how to give back value to users, and I
Mm.
think a lot of you know um, Web3 early adopters, right? They have been following his, vision since a very early stage as well, right? Yet he himself is also a musician, actually. So, he's, very art, he's an art lover, he's music lover, so I think that adds a bit of, that finesse to how you approach investing and in this very commercial, value-driven space as well, right? Because I see a lot of the, VCs, of course, we are all about, creating value for our LPs, for our shareholders, but
Mm.
it's also sometimes about creating lasting value for humanity, right? It's also a little bit like, Elon Musk, right? I've been reading his new biography as well. Um, on how he, think about creating, a new kind of space where, humanity can move to, right, on Mars and so on. And I think it's about creating something of lasting value, right, that can uh, be of value to the society even after, your time has passed, right? So, I think, there's a lot more other peers and missionary leaders that I learn from and look upon. But, I think, these are some of the, uh, two, leaders that I, see are really, defining how I'm today as well.
Yeah, both those guys are creating generational value and they're thinking beyond their own life, beyond their children's life. And it's like, what can we build here that will actually add value continuously towards humanity, even though we don't know what humanity looks like. And interesting enough that you talk about music there, because I mean, if you think about the different musics that I listen to, I listen to all sorts of genres at different times and for different moods. And it's a different way. It creates taste. It creates art. It's a different way of looking to a very sterile venture capital, investment banking world. So it's interesting to see that your leader and one of your mentors is very artistic on his take, but also very driven behind like the business sense of things. So two really good mentors there. And just to wrap this one here up, I want to ask you a question, which I love asking for everybody that comes on this podcast. So, what is a message that you would like to send to your 17-year-old version of yourself?
Yeah, that's a really great question, right? Because actually, I think about that sometime myself as well, right? Everyone like to travel, through time, either back to or backwards or to the future. If I'm really given that opportunity, I would really tell my younger self, to spend less energy trying to look smart, right? And, use more energy to being genuinely curious, right? Because, in the
Mm.
past, I spent a lot of time, studying and going to good schools and so on, building up my CV and all that. But actually, I would have rather spend those time really learning, skills, right? If I have learned more about new technologies, like AI or other new tech earlier, that I've been able to create even more value, right? I think that
Mm.
curiosity is, you really need to let it come out, right? And I think the second thing is, again, health and relationship. I think is something that you really have to treasure, right? Because as you grow older, right, you will never stop. And I think help is definitely one thing that even AI cannot directly help you with,
Mm.
right? And the relationship again that you build throughout the years is your most valuable long-term assets, right? And I think that is definitely something that I will say to my younger self. Yeah.
Very good messages. And perhaps maybe if you're more curious to create innovation, you can be like Brian Johnson and create eternal health. So we will see where that one joins up.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, David. It's been really cool to sit down with you. It's not usually me and you talking together, it's us usually answering panel questions and everything like that. So, whereabouts can people follow you and also get connected with Animoca?
Yeah, great to and really enjoy this time with you as well, Kira. So yeah, definitely would love to connect with you. You guys can follow my X on 0xabc Dave on X or yeah, search me on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, happy to connect and explore what we can do together.
Cool. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll wrap it up there. But yeah, it's been a pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you so much again.